Sometimes when we look at biomechanics reports, and this is an actual one, we get bogged down by written information or table data, um, graphical data that may seem overwhelming. I know the course we're talking about shapes, primarily the changes in these shapes, uh,
Hmm.
but the definitions of movement are really important. And I think, you got to know what's positive and negative. And those are some things that, diving deeper with some of the things you're seeing in your graphs, it gets lost. So what's easiest for me is to actually go to the animation. Do you see an animation on your
I
screen?
do.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's first look at some things that will put things together, tie it together. All right. So first, when it comes to the ground, we see this vector. Okay. Now, this is something you do not have in your single camera sensor, but this is the ground reaction force. I talk about it a lot in the course. And,
Right.
and to me, this is everything. Okay. It's how the athlete is propelling and loading off the ground. One of the things I do want to have another course specifically on ground reaction force. I want you to be able to see this too in biomechanics. This is important. Let me see if I can move this along a little bit. It may be tough to see this fine line, but you'll see a green line here. You'll
Yeah.
see a purple line and a red line. This is what we call the global coordinate axis. This means that every segment that's tracked, and even in your cell phone system, it defines, this particular part of the capture volume as vertical, horizontal, and back and forth. And the same thing is that all of these things, least ground reaction force, and all these segments, they have those coordinates built in. So I want to kind of show you, like, if we visualize the force, you're going to see when he starts, that arrow, this one here, it's more vertical. But you can see that that vector, because it changes not only in magnitude, but direction as he's driving, starts to tilt. Okay. So
Yes.
those things are important from the ground. Is how does this athlete utilize the ground? Because the reason I'm talking about this is when we start talking about rotation today, we need to have a concept of how that athlete actually moves segments in 3D. So the ground reaction forces, because we are fixed on the ground, that's where it all starts, right? Now
Right.
that's from the drive foot, but you can also see, okay, he's leaving that force plate. Less and less is being loaded. He may drag his toe. So you get like a little bit here where you got some small amount of, oh, let's see, some small amount of force here that's coming up. But you're going
Yeah.
to see what happens here. And this is where the rotation piece is so important, is what is he doing in bracing? Okay. So you
Hmm.
can see this guy's a heel striker, right? Let's look at his foot.
Yeah.
Right. So you can see when he contacts heel first, okay, then toe.
Yeah.
So what he's doing is he's trying to create angle. So you can see the angle of that force vector is now he's pushing forward really to push back.
Hmm.
One of the things that I want you to kind of think about, I do the strength programming completely with the RC13 platform, is that when you see athletes have disordered rotation, the first place I look is the lead knee. Okay. So
Hmm.
we're gonna talk about the kinematic sequence, and we're gonna go over that. But one of the biggest pieces of that is how are they operating in bracing? Because if we don't brace well, then things don't rotate well. Okay.
Right.
And so we can dive in here with even out looking at numbers or data, because you have, numbers that you can see. We can look at this knee. Okay. I want to teach this one first because we're going to get to the kinematic sequence. Let me get a pen. Um, and what happens here, and it's an interesting way that we calculate angles, is that there's a reference angle. It's always we do the distal angle relative to the proximal. The proximal means it's closer to the center of the body. So that's our
Yeah.
femur, and the distal's our shin. So we have like this reference line, okay? As
Right.
if this is zero. if the knee's completely locked, and you get some weird guys that hyperextend, so they get a negative angle here, their shin actually goes this way.
Yeah.
But what we're calculating in biomechanics and what you're seeing a lot, on those graphs is this angle. What this angle of flexion is. This is flexion here, okay?
Right.
That's flexion. Now, where we get confused is a lot of people look at the internal angle. All right. So now, like, and some of the data that you're looking at, some of them will say, oh, this is 135 degrees. Well, that is not consistent with a lot of biomechanics data. This is sometimes like coaches map this out from like how far away the legs go, but flexion, you might see at foot contact, he's 50 degrees. Or what do we have? 45 degrees, let's just say. So because we have 180 degrees here. Okay. A little physics.
Yeah. There you go.
Let's just say that happens, right? So what we want to see, my man, is when you're looking at data on the knee and you want to detect a bracing problem, we first need to see what is the knee really at weight bearing foot flat. And I think it catches it not too badly in what you're using. Because this is weight bearing foot flat, right? Like
Yeah.
if I go here, I clicked it here, he was heel striking, and then now he's weight bearing foot flat. So
Yeah.
here's the key. This is where we see disordered rotation, the kinematic sequence. I see it a lot. Is if we look at that knee, do you see how his thigh starts going down? That knee,
Yeah.
that knee's actually flexing more.
Right.
So here I was extended, I land, but then you can see there's a little more flexion in that knee. So in the training with athletes in the drill work, a big component of improving the rotational sequence is bracing. And there's lots of ways people do this. There's some people that have pitchers throw at the back of the mound. They do different things like that, but like the strength training is so key. And creating programs that have vectors. For example, if this athlete, right, is flexing, let's say, when he hits, he's not extending, he's flexed. So let's look at weight bearing foot flat. And let's just say now he starts to flex. That was at 45. But okay, now this cat, he flexed even more, right? And you're
Hmm.
going to catch this in the graph that he's now at weight bearing foot flat. After foot contact, he goes down to 50 degrees flexion. It becomes an even bigger angle. That's someone with a leaky knee. That's
Yeah.
somebody that really you need attention in single leg training, because this is what sets up a lot of problems in rotation. And then as the arm is connected, we have issues. And it gets worse if the arm gets weak, because I call these guys, hey, he's starting to become a pole vaulter a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Starting to sink so that he
Yeah.
can load his quad and come up. There's some stability issues there. Okay. So we good at looking at the knee angle. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yep.
that's how we're looking at flexion. They actually just, hey, this is the proximal segment. They run an imaginary line through. And the reference is if his knee's locked when he's landing, how much flexion is there from that position? Okay. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit here so you can see. I know the lines won't be um so visible, but I'm glad that we're good on just understanding bracing. Okay, so I'm going to clear
Yep.
all my drawings, but you can see, let's put it together, because as this athlete lands, and you can see the knee will start to sink, okay, and he's trying to develop more posterior force. It affects rotation. Like just look at the pelvis. Let's see what the pelvis does when this happens. And this is what we're going to talk about right now. Is the pelvis is affected by bracing. This is very vertical.
Hmm.
And then as it shoots, right, he starts getting more rotational speed that the pelvis turns. Okay.
Right.
So that piece is huge. Now, I am going to just take a look at your let me take a look at it does not do knee angle. And this is something that I think you should be visualizing in guys. I think what it does is it's knee extension velocity somewhere here. Oh, knee flexion. Okay, so here's the thing. Perfect. There is a knee flexion component. So it's missing, I think, from foot contact, but at least you're going to see at ball release. Okay, so when the ball's released, and for me, ball release is probably right there, like a tick or two behind 90 degrees. Okay.
Yeah.
When I look at these 3Ds and I don't have a ball markered, it's pretty much there. Okay, where the ball's out of the hand and then they're transitioning.
Yeah.
What they're showing you is they're talking about this knee angle now. Now they're missing what's happening from foot contact because that's important. And I said to you, like, if you got slow motion video on a guy and you're like, man, I could see he's sinking even through his bullpen, you know there is some faultiness in his bracing. But in this app that you have, you're looking at knee flexion, at ball release. So let me go just now. So now this thing's more extended. So
Mhm.
I'm going to draw this again. Remember, this is our reference line. This is our angle. So let's just say now at ball release, let's just say this dude is like 30 degrees. He's really locked out a lot. So it's less flexion. Remember before we were at like 45 degrees?
Right.
So that's how like that's like 45 because that's how we look at these angles. Well, we want to see, this is an athlete definitely that would be a catapulter or a pole vaulter because he has a 15-degree change in knee angle. Lots of young athletes that try to throw at high velocity. This is a clear mechanism that I see that they're like command issues or they really don't have a strong arm because they're just trying to get a lot of loading out of that lead leg. Okay. They're trying to
Yeah.
flex it a lot and they're trying to extend it a lot. Right. And you'll see some of those things. But as we go, now you know what that looks like. And I'll erase this. Let's look at the data that you got access to. So I'm gonna just come out of here. I'm gonna get you at the top here, and we're gonna go into the first bit of data that I think you should know from your imaging. So you see this knee flexion here. I'm
Yes.
Yeah. So now you have a frame of reference of what that looks like. And so they give you a score. I don't really love the score because I don't know if it's based on velocity or if it's based on health. We don't know. For me, when a player's going good, I want to see this being pretty consistent, right? When
Right.
it's when he's not going good, maybe, if we don't have the connection point when they hit the ground, because there's no real ground reaction force. So we don't know the knee flexion angle. Is it softening when he lands? But if we're starting to see that this thing is, either not stiff enough or he starts flexing more at knee flexion, like let's say this goes to 50, we know that our guy here is starting to be more flexed overall. Okay. So
Right.
that's the first thing. Hey, now conversations need to happen with the strength coach and be, hey, like I'm looking at the training here and his delivery, and I'm seeing that this guy's like consistently is more flexed at ball release. So it's telling me that there could be a lot more absorption. I need him to be able to have better bracing. You'll probably see some loss of velo there in a guy that really needs this. So
Yeah.
that's the knee flexion. Now, the knee extension velocity, okay, that's the rate of change, okay, and
Right.
that's telling you the power element, okay, from this. One of the features, right, is force times velocity. We talked about it in the course. That's joint power. We at
Right.
least know the velocity component. We won't know the force component um, from this platform, but we'll know, hey, man, we were at 370 degrees per second. This guy's gone down to 240 and he's way more flexed. There's a lead knee problem. Okay.
Yes.
So let's go. Let me get back that illustration. I have that.
So
And
that knee flexion, will that show up in the graphs at the bottom?
so the speeds will, that's why I'm going to show you. So this is just a point in time, right? We're just looking
Yeah.
at ball release there. That's just a quick reference. I always want to say, yeah, I got all the arm care data. I understand the arm. I'm not going to worry about all the arm stuff, the elbow flexion. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I want to see what I can't really understand is how's this athlete interacting at the ground and what's happening through rotation. Okay.
Right.
So like today we're going to focus on the knee position. So at least, hey, when I'm testing this kid and I'm starting to see shifts, I got to do something. He's lost power or he's lost bracing. Um, when you look at like a typical, um, let's see here. When you look at a typical readout, like this is very high level with markers. I got markers on my dudes. It's hard to see, but every joint is laid out. This is the best way to do three-dimensional biomechanics. Force plates in the mound, everything is mapped out. You know where all the joints are in 3D space. So, I'm telling you, I want to focus on the side plane, which is called the sagittal plane, this one, because your technology, it's better at those angles than it is all the rotations of angles, right?
Right.
So that's
Hmm.
one that you can clearly see there's probably an issue in what's going on with the athlete. So in the way you would look at knee angular velocity, I'm going to try to blow this up for a second. Let's see. I want to get this a little bit bigger for you. Uh, it's a little tough to navigate when I blow it up. Do you see this graph?
Yes.
Okay. So like I can kind of see all these things. Now remember I told you the extension is negative. They have it as a negative movement. Flexion is positive the way they have it. So this is basically what we're showing. The same thing I
Mm.
showed you on the animation. But when we start seeing negative velocities, now we're talking velocities, negative is extension. So
Yeah.
we can see this athlete and these bars, okay, are giving us time points. This big red bar, generally they make this very, very well uh, presented, and that's ball release.
Okay.
The lines tell you where these things are. So if I'm going down here and I'm like, oh, where's this athlete here? Okay. It's telling me his knee extension speed. Can you tell me what you're seeing? It's you're looking at the Y number.
Yeah. The 477.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
negative. So that's negative. It's not that
Right.
he's slowing down, it's just that the velocity's in the extension direction. So
Yes.
this guy's pretty high level, man. Like this is almost a 500 degree per second knee extension at ball release. So he's really trying to go. And
Right.
he really wants to get into extension. And we got to be careful with that guy because now if he flexes more, right, he might not have the time to create this kind of speed from his knee, and he needs to do that. So these are things that show up on the kinematic graph. Okay, so let's go here. Let's come out of the knee. Okay, I think we got a good understanding there. Let's go into your kinematic sequence data. Let's get back into this. All right, and I'm going to blow this up on my course that we made. I put them all on one graph. I think it was right at the beginning, and it was yeah. There you go. Okay, let's take a look here. You see how we have lines? So these are telling us when they happen, right? The solid line.
Right.
Hey, this is at foot plant. Okay. Now I wish they had positions, but this is velos. This is how fast the joints are moving. Then you got maximal external rotation. This line's telling us layback. Okay. And then here's our good old fashioned ball release, right?
Yeah.
So let me get a pen. Uh, should be able to write here. Well, let me write. So we got to find now. Oh, they don't even put the knee on here. Okay, I'm gonna go to this other sheet because I do want you to see this. You may have players go to a biomechanics lab and I want you to gain a little expertise here.
Okay.
Okay, so this is from our course. Okay, this is the kinematic sequence. I didn't want to get you guys all bogged down with the velocities and start worrying about numbers over here. This is time frame, same thing. Foot plant, I like adding pictures, it makes it easier.
Yeah.
Maximal external rotation on this line, ball release, and this is maximal internal rotation, which is generally the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is release. So we got to find that lead knee. Okay, I got colored glasses on, so that lead knee is not going to move as fast as everything else. All right. So we got this kind of this flat line. Okay. So, what we want to be able to see is this knee extension. Is it peaked out, which it should be at ball release? Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the timing thing. This is why I wish it had it on the graph, and they don't. And they're giving a score on the kinematic sequence. What happens to this player if he hits his peak right here, not at ball release?
Right.
He's got early knee extension, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the timing of this is important. It's hard to visualize, but that's something that you can see when a guy is putting a lot more load into the arm. The arm's got to be stronger actually if their peak knee extension is happening before ball release. That means that it's missed time. I like seeing players if as they rate of their rate of extension of their knee is following the extension of their elbow. So you can imagine I could show you some guys that are fully locked out. Their knees are incredibly locked out and they're still translating their arm forward. They're not at release. That's
Yeah.
someone that's got some issues in coordination. Okay.
Right.
The course I have, I know it is, we're doing some in-person stuff. And I think when we do our in-person events, we're going to get into the training a lot deeper where we're going to go like through the data and we're going to say, okay, here's some fixes for this. But that's somebody who's got, you got to have major monitoring. When you even see this on slow motion, I mean, we can see this on slow motion where that knee extension, that lockout might be happening way early and that velo in that knee, it's like, oh, all that energy's gone.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go back to the uh the other image I have for our guy because I think this is a tool, even with slow motion video, you're capturing them that you could utilize just with the phone. You know, if they don't have it, if it's hard for them to see how this sequence is up with knee velocity, so as they're transitioning, you're looking to see, hey, I'm looking at this knee and I'm also want to see what's going on at the elbow. Is this guy locked early? So it's timed nicely. So he looks like he's at peak knee extension and you're not seeing any more. You know, that's probably at extension, but you'll see some guys that are here, okay, that are locked like this.
Right
You
now,
can
all I
see.
see is you.
Oh, shoot. Thank you. Okay. Going to too many screens. Thank you so much. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So here we go. Here we go. Thank you. Clue me in because there's a lot of visuals I want to provide you.
Yeah.
So at ball release, you'll see some guys, right, that are timed nicely like this. You're seeing nice extension and nice extension together. That
Yeah.
means there's a little bit better coordination, but you might find on your video with your young guys, and they need more monitoring if this has happened, is that knee position like this, the arm will still be here,
Yeah.
okay, tilted back. So that means all that lower body energy, it's sent a ton to the top. So this arm has to absorb a lot after throwing and even into it. So that's just one big thing, you know, being mistimed
Hmm.
with the knee. I'm trying to see if I find any other thing where we're talking knee joint here. Let's see. I think I may have one on this trunk and legs. Good. Okay. This is actually a lot better than when I first saw this platform. So right here, I want you because now we're looking at visuals. I'm going to go back to your um, yeah, back to your data. Okay, and I will get a pen. Eventually, we got to figure out how you on your side can look at this and write on it too.
Yeah.
But now we got lead knee, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's follow this. What's this line? You can see this line?
Foot plant.
Foot plant. Okay, cool. So now in your mind, you know kind of what this angle is going to look like. So we got lead knee is this dot. Oh boy. Look where this cat is. Let me get my pen. Okay, look at him now. Why is this not working? Um, Annotate. Let's get me a pen, please. Where did that go? It's moved somewhere on me. Well, I'll use, yeah, there you go. Okay, so this is where he's at, right? You see him?
Yes. Yeah.
So look at this dude.
Yeah.
He's very flexed. Okay. And they didn't catch this in the actual data. So this guy is like, he's probably 55 degrees. That's a pretty flexed knee. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's young, I get it. Nice thing though is he's probably a kind of more of a stronger athlete because take a look what happens with this guy. And I like seeing that. Here's your MER, right? Right here. Your
Yep.
layback. So I call this, and I know in the course I talked about it. So here's stride foot contact. All right. From how they measure it. Sorry about that. This phase from here and here, a lot of magic happens here.
Right.
I've written articles on this. This is the the brace transfer phase. Okay. BTP, I call it. That's where you're
Yeah.
bracing and you're rotating. This is where we get to see what's going on in the knee. See how flat this is?
Yes.
All right, cool. What we don't want to see with a guy like this is this starts to creep up, right? Because remember what I was saying, this is where we're going to take the graph to our minds. Remember that the flexion angles, then they get bigger. That means the knee's flexing more, right?
Yes. Right.
So now we can visualize, oh man, if that happened, here he hits at 50, but then he goes to 60. That's a leaky knee. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can take a look at the data and be like, hey man, we got a bracing problem right now. They're like, hey, he's flexed 10 degrees. That
Yes.
to me is not a good break. But I do like the way he has this. You got to be able to erase this somewhere. Um, where do I got this? The way that they have this thing, for me, it's not easy to see. Oh, it's over here. That's why I got three screens going on. I'm gonna not I don't want to clear all drawings. I want the eraser. Okay. So give me this eraser, please. Okay. So what we got here now, right, is got someone with a very flat line.
hmm
So now we know that there's pretty good stability there. He holds it, he's not going up. That's flexion. He holds it, and then at maximum external rotation, going back to the drawing, he doesn't have much of an angle change. He's probably at 50 there, but then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you can see, okay, we're starting to extend because we have less flexion, right? That
Right.
flexion angle's going down. And when flexion angles go down, that means it's extending,
Yes.
less
Yep.
flexion. So now, like, here we go. Here's ball release. So now we know, and unfortunately they don't tell you easily in the app, in your data. So remember our first when we went up, he had 40 degrees, right? Remember?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So we know, all right, this guy has he's at 40 degrees here pretty much. And we've had I call it a joint excursion. That difference in angle is probably 15 degrees. All right. I wish they could give me numbers easily. I don't have to draw, but
Yeah.
that's probably a 15-degree delta change. This is typical of a young player. If we can get them stronger and we can get that less than 10 degrees change, their accuracy is going to go up because their eye level, everything else is going to be, so the strength program, that's a big thing. When we talk about rotation, this thing, the knee changes, it's changing elevation. Like imagine you're either you're a Ferris wheel, like this, or you're a carousel, rotational, more on plane that's like straight around my shoulders. Imagine that that's moving up and down. What happens to accuracy, right? I,
Yeah.
I think I think that model should make sense. Now, the other thing is here, when we get to this point, when we look at velocity, so he's slowly getting into extension velocity because he's losing flexion, so it's going in extension. But this rate of change, right? We're looking at this slope. How steep that line is telling us a little bit about how fast that knee's moving.
hmm
Okay.
Right.
Now, so now we've covered a little bit of how we're diagnosing the breaks, the bracing. This is where I wanted to go with you first in the first lesson. I didn't want to give you a ton to chew on. Uh,
Yeah.
we got to be able to look at what I think this thing can capture pretty well from 2D. I'll scroll it down. But you see, when we get to, I think it's joint velocities, the kinematic sequence, these are all velocities. It's not giving us this, but I'm sure somewhere we're going to get a knee extension velocity here. Probably here, yeah. Joint angles. That is throwing arm and legs. So now I'll delete this so you can take a look at that. Okay, so we got that in our video. You'll be able to follow. But now lead knee flexion angle, it's going to be negative, right? Remember, it's extension in the negative direction. So,
Yes.
so now we can kind of piece this together. This guy has like a 15-degree change. So he does have a good amount of raising, I would say, his center of mass by posting up like that. But we can see that, that he's got a pretty fast knee too, and what we want to see here on the power side, like if we note this, and there was a way in which you had two of these that you're looking side by side from two stencils, if we start seeing this line, um, here we go, annotate me, please. There you go. If we start seeing this line starting to creep up, okay, that line is starting to go up here. So now he's up here. What can you tell me about his power, his lead knee power?
Well,
Right?
he's the joint slowing down,
It's slowing down.
so he's
So
losing power.
he's losing power out of that knee. So,
Yeah.
conversations had with coaches who are training the athletes, it's like, man, we got to figure out, plyometrically, are we doing too much, too legged? Are we got to get this athlete back into the frame of mind that he needs a brace, man. Let's take reverse lunging out. Let's do a lot of forward lunging. So he's got to push back. Like let's get him responsive. This is what I do in my app, but your strength coach might have a method of putting more coordination based lifts. But these are two important things. Accuracy, right, is going to be the change in command by, you know, being really low and then getting really high potentially. And then this one, we can sacrifice velo. There is a good association to velocity, okay, with this. Now,
Yeah.
now the interplay is, how can I have a shorter range with higher velocity, less motion, but it's timed up well and it's abrupt, you
Yeah.
know, and that's what you want to have, happen. Now, if we looked at this too, and we're going to talk about the kinematic sequence in another one, because I know we're going to wrap up soon, but um,
So how do you coach that? How do you coach
training.
a shorter change at a more rapid rate?
That's in the strength training. That's why, see, that's why we built the course. Strength
Yeah.
and coordination. You'll go into, the practical section and you'll look at lower body and be like, oh man, this makes sense now. You
Yeah.
know, we have to have more like anterior, like where I'm pushing back. I need more of that stuff. So it comes in training a lot. Drills can do it too. Sometimes athletes, they may need a lengthened stride. That's a piece. But remember, the way we had it is fix their arm first before you
Yeah.
do any of it. And then you're like, okay, his arm's strong. We can start to then look at some of these other things that are, he's having accuracy problems. Okay, well, this makes sense. He's got a lot of knee motion and he's also suffering in velocity. His arm looks good. We fixed it, but there's definitely something coming from a lower body exchange here. And the other thing too is at ball release, remember, like we want to make sure that that peak's there. We
Yeah.
want that peak there. Sometimes these guys will peak here.
Yeah.
It'll be early and it, might still look flat here. It'll be early. And then we got problems, where
Yeah.
we don't have things timed up well, especially if we roll up and we're looking at the throwing arm. The throwing arm you want for its velocity, at least, oh, they don't have the hand. At least, well, here we can pretty much look at the shoulder internal rotation. I mean, that's got to be close. This is happening after ball release, but you want these things to be timed up well,
Yeah.
right? When we look at this. So that is, really what I want to cover today.
Okay.
Before I have to jump out from my kids. What I'd like you to do, because you may have questions, if you can write them down, we'll take a little bit of time to take this up. I want you to review the video, okay? And the other thing that I would like you to do, let's go to the course, because I want you to go to the exercises, and because we're going to get closer to this kinematic sequence. I want you to take a look at this so you can kind of see, okay, hey, where does the lead knee fit in? But we got to look into the sections with the lower body, okay?
Yeah.
Let's really take a look at these ones, because now you got a little bit better understanding, of what does high velocity and low velocity pitchers look like, or how do I know, the what my players like doing? Like, this is a drive knee angle. Now you can kind of apply it to the drive knee too. Hey, when I see this go down, when this angle is getting bigger, my flexion angle, whoa, that means this guy likes to sit, opposed to this guy. He doesn't want to go down there that much, right?
Yeah.
And then, you got the stride knee. This is a guy we're looking at, driving stride knee, but stride knee's over here. You can see, oh man, right away you can see this guy's flexing in, and we
Yeah.
can't have that. And on your graph, the way they did it is the opposite way. So you'll see, okay, that hump's getting higher,
Yeah.
right? And now you got a lead knee issue.